Hey guys, my name is Heather Lindsey.
And my name is Cornelius Lindsey.
And I'm so excited that you landed on Life with the Lindseys.
This is so exciting. This gives us an opportunity to share our life with yours.
Yes, we're going to be talking about everything from entrepreneurship to ministry to your purpose to why you are here, family, parenting, relationships, marriage, sex, you name it. We are talking about it.
So thank you so much for joining us today with Life with the Lindseys. Enjoy it.
I like it when you use it.
Baby, what song is that?
I like that you don't play fair.
Wait, who would sing that song? That ain't no Hillsong. That ain't no Miranda Curtis. Who is that?
Calling me master.
Wait, Master? What are we listening to? Happy Friday, everybody. My name is Heather Lindsey.
What up? My name's Cornelius Cole.
And we are with Life with the Lindseys, and we're so excited about this topic today. I feel like this is like a breakthrough moment for me. We're talking about racism in this world.
Racism.
Yes.
Racism. In our different perspectives.
Yeah, in our different perspectives. I'm so excited about talking about this because I feel like for years I haven't talked about it. Because way back when, I'll get more into my story, but anytime I would talk about racism in America, people would look at me and tell me that I'm not qualified to speak about those issues because I'm biracial. Like, you're not fully Black. You can't talk about this, Heather. You need to leave that to the Black people to talk about it. You can't talk about it because you don't know our struggles. And that's something that I kind of grew up with.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be cool if we kind of shared our background and our stories to help.
Bet. Go ahead then, Cole.
Okay. So I was adopted at the age of 6 months into a white family, and my birth mom is white and my birth father is Black. And
California white and Alabama Black.
She's like Beverly Hills white, praise the Lord. So I was adopted into a white family, and my parents are the most loving, precious people ever. I always say my mother's like Mother Teresa, and she's just a sweet white lady that loves everybody. She would adopt you listening if you needed a mom, wouldn't she, babe?
Yeah, she would.
She adopts everybody.
I mean, she be going out picking up them cats and stuff with 3 legs. And
Right.
Like the cat. Remember when I showed up the first time and I was like, oh, you have a cat? And she was like, yeah. She's like, Cornelius, the cat only has 3 legs and is blind and has this and that. I mean, the cat had like every issue in the world. And I was like, Mom, it's time to put this cat down. She's like, no, the cat, all the cat needs is love. It just needs love, Cornelius.
That's it. So that's how I grew up. And actually my mom's listening. So, hey, mommy, I love you. She's so excited about this podcast. I was telling her about it. But growing up, I watched my mom rescue animals on the side of the street. Like, have you ever seen an adult, a woman, give CPR to a dog? I've seen it. My mom.
Usually like for Black folks, when we talk about race, we be like, yeah, that's white people stuff. we ain't putting our mouth to no animals.
Right. So growing up, like my parents adopted, there's 24 of us and 23 of us are adopted. And so our nationalities range from white to Black, Korean, Indian, Arabic, you name it. I mean, there's some of everybody in our house growing up, and racism wasn't something that was talked about a lot.
Yeah.
Growing up, when we moved to where we lived in Brooklyn, Michigan, which was a really tiny town, it was all white people.
Yeah.
Literally one stoplight, super small town. I remember we first moved into our house. These guys came by with a flag, a Confederate flag, and they were driving up and down our street. And I didn't know what it was because I was just like, what's happening? And then my sister was like, that's the KKK, Christy.
Oh,
you know,
of course. That's Christy. Yeah,
and I was like, oh my gosh, the KKK. I never really heard about them. I never was raised with racism being in the forefront of my mind. And that's the only time I ever saw anything like that growing up. We grew up in a small town. I went to an all-white school. I knew I didn't look like everybody else at my school. But we didn't talk about slavery. We didn't talk about racism, even like the history of it. I didn't have any Black teachers, nothing. I was literally surrounded by white people my whole entire life, really and I had a couple Black friends as I got older, high school and stuff from a different town over. But I really was around white people my whole life.
Yeah.
And then I went off to college. And when I was in college, I would take Black history courses because I felt like I needed to learn because I felt like I was so behind.
Yeah.
I'll get around my Black friends and they would say, oh, no, Heather, we don't say that. We Black. We don't say that. And I'm like, oh no, what did I say? Because I legit didn't know that that's not what Black people say, right? Nobody ever told me. So I felt like I was very sheltered growing up. And then I started taking Black history classes,
which is of no fault of your parents because they can't explain to you a culture that they haven't experienced. They don't know themselves.
I agree. And the thing about my parents is that they always taught us that what matters is what's on the inside. What matters is your character. What matters is how you're on the outside. That's how God made you. And you are just as equal as everybody else.
Yeah.
They also taught me that if other people are hateful or other people are mean, no matter what they are, that is a reflection of their character, not my own.
Yeah.
And so if they're overlooking me, then that's their character. It's not my own. So growing up, I didn't have the mindset of, everybody's racist or, white people are my parent. That's my mom and dad. Like that's my family. I didn't think that. I knew it was happening, but to me, KKK meant you had the pointy cone hat on, and you have the all white, and you have the Confederate flag. Mm-hmm. And obviously we know that's not the case because people can be closet racists, but growing up, like that's what I saw. And I just figured if I'm a good person and I'm loving and I'm kind, then I'll be okay in this world.
Right.
And that's what I grew up believing. And my parents, I believe, did the best that they could in teaching us, to love everybody, no matter what they look like, no matter what their gender is, no matter what their color is. So that's kind of how I was raised.
Well, I was raised a little different.
Real quick, I was raised in the Midwest and you're raised in the South. So I feel like,
I was born in a little small town called Newton. It was Newton, Mississippi, Newton Regional Hospital, where they didn't even have a nursery unit there in the hospital. But basically when I was born, they took a file cabinet and put down towels and stuff, and they put me inside of there because they didn't have a nursery unit inside of the hospital. So it was a small place, and the town was incredibly small. I'm Black. I have my maternal, paternal figures in my life, my mother and my father. So I've been Black a long time. And so I know a little about the culture because this is my culture. But even still, like, inside of the Black culture, there is still different cultures there's subcultures inside of the Black culture.
Yeah.
And
you're teaching me it. And it's
so I had to learn different subcultures inside of the culture.
Yeah.
So I grew up with an older sister, mom, dad in the house. And I was then, raised in a very Black culture, but it was very subculture because it was Southern Black. Mm-hmm. So I was, it was like, this was this subcultural group that I identified with.
Yeah.
I went to an elementary school. Now this small town, although there were a good number of Blacks, the whites, we say they usually ran the town. They had the large houses. All of their houses were in the same subdivision. They lived behind a gate. It was the doctor, the dentist, the attorney, the owner of the bank. All of them kind of lived back there. And then, so I went to school. I remember my first, like in elementary school, a little white boy ripped the pocket off of my shirt and called me a nigger boy.
Oh my God.
And, it was like, that was like one of my first, and that was even my first taste of it. Yeah. It was like, as I was growing up, like in church, it was a time we would do, what would they call it? Back to the old way Sunday or something like that, where like they dress up in overalls and all this kind of stuff. But I remember there were Sundays where they would put up pictures of the KKK and stuff like that. We would have to learn about in church about Medgar Evers and people and notable Black figures in church.
Yeah.
I never forget, knowing that a mile and a half from where I lived, the Ku Klux Klan used to burn the cross.
Crazy.
Like it was insane.
And you grew up seeing this.
I grew up seeing this. It was a dirt road that we took to get to our church, St. John Missionary Baptist Church. It was an old dirt road we took. And I never forget going down that dirt road. There was an opening where the Ku Klux Klan would meet and they would burn their cross. So you never knew if you were leaving church at the end of the night who was going to be there. And then when certain movies came out, you remember that movie Time to Kill?
No.
Well, it was a movie with Samuel L. Jackson, and that was the one where he was like, they asked him a question, do you think they deserve to die? And he's like, yeah, I think they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell.
Wait, is that where you get that from?
Yes, that's where I get it from. Yeah, I mean, like movies like that in Philadelphia and places like that were they were triggers for me.
Oh wow!
Because that's what I grew up in. I grew up in Mississippi, Philadelphia. We used to go to Philadelphia to go get fatback bacon.
Yeah,
so. Seeing this kind of stuff and like driving down those dirt roads, like in A Time to Kill, the beginning part of it, his daughter is out running. They take his daughter, put her on beat her up and throw things at her, and then put her on the back of a pickup, tie her up to the back of a pickup truck and basically drag her until she's dead. God. So like that was that old dirt road leading up to that little small Baptist church that I go to. So I grew up seeing this stuff in the year 2000, going over from 1999 to year 2000. Everybody else was out, having a good time, laughing, playing, all this other kind of stuff. And sitting there in Newton, we had this threat that said that if any black folk were caught out past midnight, that they were going to stop our car and blow our heads off.
What?
I remember my mom looking at me, and I'm seeing her strength, and she said, "We going to watch night service. I don't care what we going to watch night service." That's right. And I remember us leaving watch night service after midnight, after dark, and every time I saw lights flash, every time I saw lights of headlights, I would duck down in the car. My mom would say, "Get out, get out, get out." And it was that type of fear that you had in your heart. Like my grandfather, when he tried to run for political office, tried to run for sheriff, and the Klan came to the house and basically told him he had to get out of the race, and if he didn't, then the trees outside were going to be filled with his ancestors. So or be filled with his family. So I've seen this. I felt it. So now bringing me to this point that I have in marrying you, like you brought a sense of healing for me because it opened up my eyes to a different culture. Yeah. Because I didn't know your culture. We finally moved from Mississippi. We moved to Riverdale, Georgia, Clayco forever. we moved to Riverdale, Georgia. And when I moved to Riverdale, there were no white people in Riverdale. And the white people that were in Riverdale, they were all black. They was like gothic. We was like, I don't fool around with them too much. You be real nice to them, but you don't play around with them. So it's like that was my thing. So I was still around black, but then that was a different subgroup of black because in Mississippi I was Southern country black. Yeah. Then you get to Riverdale, Georgia, Clayco, and it's like this is a different subsect of black. So I need to assimilate. I need to learn about this thing. So meeting you, and then meeting my now in-loves changed my life, and it changed my heart. Towards people, we could talk about that. We could talk about that a little bit later on too. But I think going from this, after we come back after this, I would love to hear the continuation of why you really feel like this is such a tender spot for you. We could talk about that right after this.
Now, if you think it's impossible to get your kid to put their cell phone down or video game down and do something that's good for their brain, you're wrong. It's possible. And I want to take a second to talk about KiwiCo. I love it. It is a science and art subscription box for kids tested by kids, and it's more fun than any game they can play. And I can truly say that all of our kids love KiwiCo. Whenever they see the box, they just get so excited. And it's an opportunity for us to spend time together without screen time.
Your child can get super cool hands-on science and arts projects delivered to their door every month. I mean, what kid doesn't love to get mail? You'll be surprised at how the high quality the materials are.
It's the best.
These are just real engineering, science, and art projects for your children. I remember the one that we just did was a little car.
Yeah.
Little car. And I mean, Roman and Taylor both loved that. Being able to create the car. Yeah. It gave them something to do, because you want to be able to find the kids something to do inside of the house, and gets their brain motivated, gets their brain stimulated. Y'all, KiwiCo is redefining play with hands-on projects that build confidence, creativity, and critical thinking skills. There's something for every kid or kid at heart at KiwiCo. Get your first month free on select crates at kiwico.com/LWTL. That's KIWICO.com/LWTL.
Okay, and we're back. Gosh, I love this conversation. We might have to do a part 2 because I feel like there's so much I want to talk about. I think this is such a tender, soft spot for me because I feel like and let me just be totally transparent, babe. I just feel like over the years, whenever certain people talk about certain things, people might unqualify them or say, you're not allowed to say that, or you're not allowed to talk about, you grew up differently. So you don't understand our struggles. You don't understand what we've been through. And I think the reality is there's an issue right now in this world with racism. I think we have to just like put it out there. Like if you look at George Floyd's death or different people that have died or passed away unjustly, right? And one person they might...
Sandra Bland, Breonna Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, we could go on and on with the names. Like, I don't want my husband to be a hashtag. You know what I'm saying? You have to think about that. Like, that's real. Like, those people, they did not think they were going to die by the police. They didn't fool with the police. Some people died in their living rooms. Yeah. Like, that is frustrating. And I feel like all those lives have finally been like, a lot of them were just seeds that were planted and planted and planted. And now I feel like America's waking up and they're seeing that there's a problem in this world. Yeah. Like they're seeing that people are being killed unjustly and without cause. And we've got to do something about the systematic racism that's in this world. Like something has to change. And I feel like this generation, our generation and the generations below us are standing up against that stuff. They're like, no, it's not okay. Yeah. We're going to protest. We're going to stand up because it's not okay. And I feel like a lot of their parents and the grandparents were the ones that might have pushed that racism that's been passed down over the years. But I feel like there's a change, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, racism, ideology is shared over a dinner table.
Yeah. That's real.
And the same way a racist ideology is shared over a dinner table, reconciliation is shared over a dinner table. Yeah. It takes time because you're not born into this world. You're not born into this world hating somebody else because they don't look like you. That's something that is taught to you. And I just want to say this, babe. Honestly, the reason why a lot of people try to marginalize others who don't look a certain way, is because, number one, I believe that while we have a racism problem in this country, I believe more than anything, we have a mental health problem.
Preach.
I think we have a mental health problem in the sense that people themselves we have so much unresolved trauma. Yeah. And you got to think
400 years.
You got to think you put people through 400 years of slavery. Yeah. And throughout 400 years of slavery, you have passed down trauma. Just look at how I know Southern Black. I know that subsect. You see how parents beat children. Where they, it's like they beat them with the whatever they can get a belt. It's like go get your switch from outside. It's like what kind of traumatic experience are you having? You got to go outside to get your own weapon of torture. You know what I mean? Then when you don't get the right one, you get beat with that one and another one. Yes. But you know what? This stuff was passed down where you see where slaves saw masters hitting other slaves with whips. So maybe if the whip got the slave in line, I can use the whip to get my kids in line. And then we use certain verses that says, well, I ain't gonna spare the rod, so I'm gonna hit you with the house shoe. But there's not just the racism that we have to deal with, but there's also this mental health issue where there's a lot of trauma. And so people look and people say, well, you're not qualified, as if they're qualified because they reach a certain level of blackness or whiteness or Hispanicness to be able to say, I am the only one who's qualified to speak on this subject because I am black and I am black and I know that I am black. When in actuality, we're all different and we all have different experiences. And until we finally come to the table and be willing to listen to one another's different experiences, that's the only way we're going to even start a process towards healing. As long as we tell people you're not qualified because you're mixed. Like, excuse my French, but you didn't, I ain't gonna say that. You didn't choose, you're welcome, baby.
you didn't choose your mother and your father.
Thank you.
Like,
I
you
just
didn't
showed
choose
up.
to be mixed. Like, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
And then people are like, well, you got to be black. Well, you didn't choose who you were. This is who you are. And I feel like there are millions of other people.
Yeah.
Who are just like you, who say, this is how I feel, but I feel like I can't say anything because people will tell me, well, you ain't black.
You don't understand.
You don't understand my struggle. When in actuality, I'm black and I don't understand a lot of black struggles. Like, I've been stopped by the police. Yeah. I've had things happen to me, but then in some subsects of black, I don't understand their struggle. Like, I don't understand the city struggle of blacks. Yeah. There's certain struggles that I don't even understand, but I'm black. I've been black a long doggone time.
33 years.
33 doggone years I've been black. Ain't ran from it.
So the crazy thing is, growing up, I felt like I wasn't white enough, or I wasn't white enough for the white people. And then I would get around black people and they reminded me that you're not black enough for us. Mm-hmm. And then I remember.
It's just rejection.
Definitely.
Rejected people reject people.
Yeah. And I remember meeting this girl and I'm like, hey, let's do lunch. Let's hang out. Cause we all hung out in a big group. And she looked at me straight in the face, babe. And she said, I don't like you. And I was shook because I was like, I'm sorry. Did I do something to you? She said, you're light skinned with long hair and green eyes. You take all the guys. She's like, I don't like you. I was shook, babe.
What they got to do with her?
But that was my first time really like spending time and being around people that are other colors. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Other races. Because mind you, I came from a totally white town. It had a totally wrong mindset towards African Americans in general. I didn't know. And other races too. I didn't know how people were in real life. I was sheltered. I was in a small town. And it's so ironic because like I'd get around my black friends and they would say, I'm taking your black card again. You didn't watch Friday till you were how old?
Yeah. You know I used to do it to you all the time. I'm like, girl, you ain't watched Friday yet. I gotta get you into the black culture.
Right. So I missed a lot of that because obviously my exposure was my parents.
Yeah.
And they can't teach something they don't know. And it's not even their fault. Yeah. But I feel like why, maybe God did allow for me to be in that household for many reasons, but maybe one of them is to bridge the gap and say, I want to say from one side of growing up with white people, being biracial, and it's interesting. I actually had a great conversation with a family member earlier this week. And we've had conversations about race before here and there. And one of the things that have come up in the past is Black Lives Matter. And that particular family member was like, a year ago, I would have told you that every life matters. Mm-hmm. But they said now, the reason I said that is because I didn't think there was an issue. Mm-hmm. And they truly in their mind, white people think that there's not an issue, unfortunately, because they're not exposed to it and they're not around it and nobody's telling them about it. Mm-hmm. And it could just be they don't have friends that are Black that are open and sharing their struggles with them because maybe they feel like they don't understand. But I feel like sometimes, and I'm not trying to defend anybody, but sometimes we charge other races for things that they just don't know about. Yeah. And I feel like in this particular family member who I know for a fact is not, right? None of my family's racist. I mean, literally we have every nationality in our household, it feels like. Yeah. But they felt like what they said to me was, I cannot wrap my head around the idea of being racist because I'm so far from it. I love everybody. I love people. I love everybody, Black, yellow. It doesn't matter what your color is, but her frustration was like, I'm finally seeing it on the news. I'm finally seeing it. It's being recorded and now it's in my face, but it was never in the faces, I feel like, of so many people. Yeah. So although it was happening in the Black community, there was something happening. There was like a divide where that communication wasn't happening. But now I feel like that communication is happening and people are saying this person shouldn't have died and they did. Yeah. And now that family member is like, I just didn't know, but now I do know. And now I want to go protest. Now we need to see some change because it's not enough to be just, I don't believe in racism, but I'm also against people who are racist. That's wrong. I'm calling that out. So now I'm starting to see like my white friends and my white family members call that stuff out. Like, no, that's not cool. That's not what we do. Yeah. And they did it before, but they didn't understand it to the level of what it is now.
I mentioned earlier that when I married you, my life, like a healing process started to change. Yeah. Because I don't want to say I grew up hating white folk. It ain't the fact I didn't grow up. In fact, I hated them. In fact, I didn't trust them.
I remember you saying that.
I used to say it all the time. You used to be like, baby, there's a lot of white people here. And I'm like, I don't trust them white folks. I don't trust them.
You would say that a lot.
I don't trust them. Like, no, it's too many white people here. Remember, we go to certain resorts, to certain resorts, and I'd be like, God, dog, hey, I'm the only spot of pepper in all this salt.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just, I
wouldn't even know.
You didn't even know that. You'd be like, babe, like, why are you saying that? I'm like, I am.
I was
You're
like,
babe, nobody's thinking that. I'm like, baby, when I walked in here, all them white eyes turned right around and looked right at me.
Because you're so handsome, baby.
Yeah, you say that. You like, yo, it's just your presence. I was like, yeah, it's my presence, all right. It's my black presence. Because when the white people walked in here, they was like, okay, you know. But then when I walked in, it was like, what you doing in here? Like, what, you know? It was crazy. But when I met your family,
yeah,
they changed my life. I'm gonna tell you exactly how they changed my life right after this.
Okay, you guys, it's really important that you guys have life insurance. Like, it's so important with everything that's going around right now and everything that's going on. A lot of people are asking if it's even possible to buy it. Now, the short answer is yes. You can buy life insurance during a pandemic. And if you have loved ones, depending on your income, you probably should. And this is why we love Policy Genius, babe.
Yeah, Policy Genius compares quotes from the top life insurance companies in one place. It takes just a few minutes to compare quotes from the top insurers to find your best price. Now, this doesn't just save you a lot of lead work. I mean, you could save $1,500 or more a year by using Policy Genius to compare life insurance policies. Once you apply, the great thing is the Policy Genius team will handle all the paperwork and red tape, and they do it for free. So if you hit up any speed bumps during the application process, they'll be there to take care of everything. So if you're one of the people looking to buy life insurance right now, but you're not sure where to start, head to policygenius.com. Policy Genius will help you find the best rate and handle the process completely. They'll get you and your family protected and hopefully give you one less thing to worry about. So I never forget when I went up to go and meet your mom and meet your family. It was like the United Nations. It was like, you know, it was. Wait,
what did you first think when I told you my parents are white?
I mean, we had that conversation. Yeah, you told me about that. We had that conversation. Remember, you told me, you said don't say nigga when you go up there. Remember you said that?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Because we don't use that word, right, babe?
Yeah, I was like, well, I won't say that. And you were like, yeah, I don't want you to say that, blah, 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 blah. And I mean, back then when I used it all the time, that's what we did in that subsect of Black community. We used it with each other.
Yeah.
So you told me not to say that. And I was like, well, I don't know how these white people are. Like, how do white people cook? And then you were talking about how they cook. And I was like, do they have Lowry's? And you like, I don't, baby.
We're going to have to bring some Lowry's.
We have to bring some
I never heard of Lowry's till I got to college.
And you got around Black people.
Exactly.
It was like, you know, I was asking you questions like, well, what is this? Because we went up there for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And I was like, I had it in my mind, like, this is going to be a horrible Thanksgiving dinner. Like, this ain't going to be it.
And I was mad at you about that.
You were so upset with me. But you have to understand, in my culture, like, holidays, that's a big deal. Like, we, like, you know, like like in the Black culture, you ain't even fit to cook the mac and cheese until like the matriarch of the house comes and bestows the right up on you. When the matriarch says, Susie, you can cook the mac and cheese. Yeah. Susie's not qualified to cook a mac and cheese. Yeah. But if Susie just bring mac and cheese over, we don't eat her mac and cheese.
So Susie's mac and cheese just sits there?
Susie's mac and cheese going in the trash. Susie don't know it yet. We just waiting for Susie to leave. Because Susie we don't eat everybody mac and cheese. We don't eat everybody potato salad. It's just certain things. That's a big deal. That's a big deal in the subsect Black community I grew up in. Yeah. So now when I go up and I meet your family, my mother-in-law, she was so loving towards me.
Yeah.
That it disarmed me.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, like this is love. And then remember we got in the car and I was like, they all fake. They don't like me. I think white people don't like me. I said, I know they don't like me. I know they don't like. I said, she acted. And you're like, no, baby. And even when I said it because that's what I wanted to feel.
Like a protection.
But I knew in my heart of hearts that was a lie because I knew that she loved me.
Yeah.
Like she just met me and she loved me. And you know, and as we just continued to go on in our marriage and we got a chance to meet many of your other family members.
Mm-hmm. My birth family.
That opened up my heart and being able to listen to them. who are different. We have different political views.
Yeah.
We have different upbringings. We have different, all these things that are different. And I mean, in fact, even staying at their home, even staying at their house.
Yeah.
For me, it was like, we don't do this. Like in my head, I'm thinking we don't do this in the black house.
Really?
Like certain stuff, like we don't do it like in a black house, and like certain stuff white people do in their house.
You would tell me, and I'd be like, "Really?
Oh yeah, we don't do that. We don't do that. No, put that back. Put that back. We don't. You eat everybody food. Put that back. Where you get that from? But like even in that, it opened up my eyes. And one thing it began to show me that I just don't feel like we have enough of in our world today, and that is exposure.
Yeah, that's real.
Because exposure allowed for my heart to open and allowed for healing to take place. Because I wasn't, and here's the thing, because of where I was born in a little small town in New Mississippi, and because of what I knew, I was only exposed to a very small part of the world.
Yeah. And
then I started traveling. I started going and seeing different cultures. We saw Middle Eastern cultures. We saw African cultures. We saw European cultures. We saw different cultures throughout America. And then when I got a chance to see the white culture up close and personal, even in that subsect, it's like that allowed for me to get exposed to something. And then I had to make a decision. Either I'm going to close this out and just write it off as though it's not important, or I'm going to say, this is worth me opening up my heart to and at least giving it a chance.
That's good. And I think I want to segue into this. I think we have to be open to hearing other people's sides and stories without judging them. Mm-hmm. If they didn't know, then we need to take responsibility as much as we can to encourage them and remind them and share some of our personal stories and maybe encourage them to go on Netflix. There's some on Netflix like 13th, American Son, Clemency. There's one that's called Dear White People. There's a lot of different ones. You can Google them. But I encourage you to go on Netflix. I encourage you to go on Amazon and type in, racial injustice or discrimination. If you're listening and you're white and you like, man, Heather, I get it. I'm like those people you grew up with. I wasn't exposed. I don't even have any Black friends. Mm-hmm. Then this is your opportunity to get exposed. So when you do have those Black friends that say those things about Black people or other races, then you can love and healing. Yeah. But if we shut down everybody and say, well, you can't talk because you're not this, you don't qualify, then we're closing down a door for healing and an opportunity for healing. And we have to also understand that this fight is spiritual. It's not physical. Yeah. Things happening spiritual first, and then it bursts out physically. And we know this has been going on for years, but I believe that healing can truly happen that way. Yeah. And I want to be a part of that. That's why I was like, babe, can we do a podcast this week on, racism in this world? I want to talk about it from the perspective of my white friends that I had growing up that truly did not know, that they just don't know any better. Like, for example, at our wedding, we had a certain family member.
Jesus,
baby. I know.
I remember this.
Let me tell the story first.
Okay, you tell it, because every time I tell it, I get a little hot.
Baby, it's okay. No, it's okay.
No, I don't get hot. I mean, I completely understand it, because again, I was exposed to something. So I was able to. I wanted in that moment to be empathetic.
So I'm not sure if he said it to me, so I wasn't there, but my husband comes to me and says, you will not believe what this certain family member of yours said to me. He said, there's so many nice coloreds here. I've never seen so many professional coloreds. He
said, y'all started on time and everything. He said, everybody's dressed up so nice. It's just a lot of coloreds. And I thought, whoa. All I could think was the book of James. Just bridle your tongue. Just, okay, we're going to use this thing, be angry, but sin not. I was upset.
But it's a much, much older white man.
Yeah, it was.
That has never been around Black people, ever.
And he said that. He said, I've never been around Black people like this. I've never been. And then he said this too, which I thought was, which disarmed me a lot. He said, the only exposure I've really had to Black people is what I've seen on the news and on movies. Well, he said on the news and on the shows on TV. Well, and then I was disarmed in that moment, because then I thought, well, this is good, because now I have an opportunity to expose him to something different. And his exposure opened up his heart to be able to receive some information. Whereas I could have just in that moment just been belligerent. Because here's the thing. Nowadays, because of our mental health and because just how toxic things are nowadays, people are not trying, everybody wants to be right.
Yeah.
And nobody really wants to be heard.
Yeah.
And sometimes we want to be right so bad that we become judges for everybody else.
Yeah, that's good.
And then we become great attorneys for ourselves. I ain't got no problem with me. It's y'all. It's you. I'm gonna point out every bad thing about you. And then even in those situations, I mean, I've been on the other side of that.
Yeah.
It's like, even then I think, okay, God, help me to listen.
Yeah.
To what it is that I need to hear.
You're so
first
good at
for
that.
me.
You're so good at
let
that.
Let me listen for me. So that means I got to block out and cut off everything else I'm doing to hear from me so I can change things for me. Then let me do that for me.
Yeah.
Nowadays, people, it's like a lot of people you look at them, people don't really want reconciliation. People want to be right. Yeah. And they say, this is my experience. Okay, well, what's next? That's your experience. So let's change it.
Yeah.
So now, okay, that was your experience over the last 35 years. How about we do this? How about we work over the next 35 years to help change your experience? And there won't be any reconciliation until we can sit down at a table with people who don't look like us, who don't talk like us, who don't think like us. And instead of looking across the table and just saying, you're white, which I am not saying not to look at color. I mean, we ain't colorblind. What I am saying is that here it comes to the point where we look at each other and we say, you know what? We're human. Yeah. And when I get around my in-laws, I mean, now they're my family. Yeah, I don't care what color they are. I love them all the same. But in the beginning, I had to continue to tell myself, these ain't white folk or Asian folk or, because it's a bit everybody in my family. Like, these are humans.
That's right.
These are beings
with feelings.
These are people with feelings.
Yeah.
And these are people with experiences. These are people who may have experiences that are different than mine.
Yeah.
But that does not discount theirs just because I don't agree with theirs.
Yeah. And
that just means that they may need healing for theirs as much as I need healing for mine. So these are humans. And until we can start seeing each other as humans and beings and stop just trying to, I got to be right. And let me tell you about me because this is my white experience and, white people. And, I don't care about this because, black people don't have a problem. And if you people would stop, it's like, no. Wait. It's the you people remark. Why are you so upset about that? Well, if you would listen to me, just listen to me. Just don't talk. Just listen to me. And then it's so bad in this things. People want people to like, well, I want you to respond and tell me, how you feel about this. But the issue is if I'm listening, then why do you want me to talk?
Yeah.
Because I need to listen to what's being said.
Yeah.
And I can be able to explain to you when you're ready for it. Because right now you're not ready for it. Well, when you're ready for it, I can be able to explain to you why you people is disrespectful. Because then it places you in this position where you feel as though you're higher than I am.
Yeah.
And different than I am. So,
yeah. Let's take a break really quick and we're going to come right back to this awesome conversation. We're back. And I think one of the questions that I get a lot is there's a lot of black on black crime. Why are we outraged? Because more black people kill each other than police officers do.
Who do you get that? Who do you get that from the most? White people?
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally white people.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share my perspective real quick and then I want you to.
Okay.
So say Jamal kills Johnny, right? Then Jamal goes to jail for the rest of his life for killing Johnny. Mm-hmm. But if police officer Bob kills Johnny, he gets put on paid administrative leave unless the whole world riots. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's like the difference. Like the police officer could do it. Mm-hmm. And he's fine. But if a black guy does it, he's going to jail. He's done. But I feel like it's a lot lighter. And the only reason I feel like people get outraged and cases start getting, people start getting murder cases is because the world just riots.
Yeah.
And then they feel the pressure.
Yeah. I believe that, I mean, if you look at some of the stats, I think Black Americans, I think we make up, I think it's like 13 or 18% of the nation.
Yeah.
Many of us, we don't even have an opportunity to be born because of what I refer to as Black genocide through Black
abortions. Yeah.
But then in the continuation of this conversation, you have, I think it's upwards of over 40% of crimes which are committed by Blacks. Primarily, I believe it's Black men. I believe that's how the statistics go. The problem with that, even trying to use the stats in order to prove that there is more Black on Black crime, the problem with that is that you use substantial data. I won't say it's unsubstantiated. You use substantial data in order to pivot away from the conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah.
The conversation does not end just because in this situation that there's another subsect of crime that happens. Yes, that happens in the same way white on white crime.
Yeah.
But that's not the conversation. The conversation that is being had is in reference to this conversation. Right now, the conversation is for some people, because the conversation also in this is different for many people. The conversation many people are having right now is the conversation between Black and police brutality. And then that goes all the way to Rodney King, to the LA riots. I mean, there's a lot of history here. There's a lot of trauma here, which then brings us to this point where we're at right now. This didn't just start in 2020. And I think some people think, well, this started here. But when you are in the midst of a conversation and then you seek to divert the conversation and saying, well, I somebody say, well, I feel like we need to deal with this situation. I hear what you're saying, but you also got to think about what's wrong with Black on Black crime. Well, we still have to deal with this, but we also have to realize that it's a traumatic experience. This is a traumatic episode that happens inside of the Black community. And you have to think there are a lot of other issues that come into play here. Absolutely. Where there is, I mean, you have low income communities. I mean, there's a lot here. There's a lot of violence here, not because we are just violent people, but because of the trauma by which we have faced, because of many of the places by which we have lived, because of much of our family structure, because of the gangs we have to call our family and of gangs we have to call our community. There's a lot of conversation here, but that's not the conversation we're having. Yeah. The conversation we're having is here. So let's divert our attention here, and then let's not seek to be right. Let's seek to understand. Let's not even seek to be heard. Let me just seek to understand. And seeking to understand oftentimes means you need to be quiet. And it's okay to be quiet. It's okay to do that. Like, and I see it now where you see people there saying, white people, if you don't speak up and say something, that means you're complicit. Not necessarily. For some people, for some white people, they just don't say anything because they don't know what to say. They don't know what to say,
and they feel like if they say anything, they're going to get
killed. They're like, well, crushed. if I say, well, Black Lives Matter, you're going to say, well, you're white, you don't understand. Well, then if they say, well, all lives matter, then they say, well, you really don't get it because it's really Black lives. So focus on Black lives. Then if they say, well, I don't know what to say, it's like, why don't you know what to say? You should know what to say. And it's like, well, it's almost like you doggone if you do and you doggone if you don't.
Yeah,
that's so it's like, well, what am I supposed to say? Yeah. How am I supposed to? We don't have a sense of empathy. We don't have a sense of mercy. At all. We don't have a sense of grace. Again, people just want to be right. We don't want to really sit down to understand. But using that whole thing of, well, this is our conversation. Yeah, but don't you got Black on Black crime? If I hear one more person tell me, well, what about the killings in Chicago? I mean, come on, we can deal with that,
but obviously there's an issue, and I feel like you're trying to take away from the focus right now of police brutality and African Americans, which is clearly a problem right now in America.
Yes.
So I'm so glad it's coming out and we're talking about it.
And I've heard people say, well, it's not as big as this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the size of it. If people are talking about it, then that becomes the issue, and that becomes the thing that we begin to deal with. But nonetheless, I mean, I think this is a lot deeper than what people think it is. I have a political podcast called Silent Majority, and I talk about it a lot on there as well. We can pass every legislation, every law that we want to, but if laws work, then people wouldn't get speeding tickets.
Yeah,
we can do all that stuff. We can make all those things happen. I'm not saying those things are bad, but until we start to at least see each other as being human,
yeah.
And then we start to seek to understand.
And stop trashing everybody's in judging their posts.
Yeah.
They might say something like, well, I see you post Black Lives Matter, but who did you give to? Who did you do this to? What are you doing to help the community?
Yeah. It's really, I mean, but you got to think it's even turned inward.
Oh yeah.
It's even, I mean, as a Black man in the Black community, you see it a lot, even within the Black community, because there's a lot of infighting within the community.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the subsects. They fight against each other and they say, well, you can't use Black Lives Matter. It's like, but I'm Black. Yeah, but what have you given to the Black community? Bro, I've been Black my whole doggone life. Who's my way I give to the Black community? I got a Black family. Like, I support my Black family. What you talking about? Well, how much money did you give? You only gave 10,000. That ain't enough. You need to at least give 100. Like, hold on, how you count my pockets? How much did you give? Exactly. Well, you in a position to be able to do it. You are too. It's like we don't need a commander in chief right now.
Yeah.
We need a therapist in chief. That's what I'm serious.
Seriously.
We need a therapist in chief.
I feel like if our heart's not going to change, our home's not going to change, and then our community's not going to change, and then this world's not going to change.
Yeah.
I feel like we all need to take personal responsibility of our own trauma, our own issues, our own mindset that we have towards other races, and we need to be honest with ourselves and get the healing that we need. And it can come through a form of a therapist. It can come through, obviously, the Lord. He can heal those different areas that are in our heart. But I feel like we want the world to change, but we're not willing to change.
Yeah.
And we want it to change based on our perspective and based who gets approved based on our mindset.
Yeah.
Like, you're not qualified to approve or disapprove anybody.
Cancel culture. Well, we're going to cancel you because you ain't.
You didn't make me, so you can't cancel me. Number 2011.
Go sit
but
down.
I'm just saying, like, we've got to do our part. And I believe that even starts in our home. Is our heart pure? Is our heart right? Our hands clean? Okay. Now we can teach our children what that looks like and make sure their hearts are clean and their hands are clean. And then, the world will change that way, one person at a time. I remember we were in Florida. It was a family trip and we brought some of our team with us. Sometimes we like to bring our team on our family trips, and they came with us. And I remember we were shopping at this little boutique. And we shopped around and I was like holding an item. I was trying to decide if I was going to buy it or not. And then I remember paying for it and I walked out, and my girlfriend turned to me and said, a lady was following me around in the store. Mm-hmm. I literally was boiling. I said, excuse me? I was like, why didn't you tell me in there? She was like, no, I didn't want to say anything. I said, no, we're going back there right now. So I took her and my sister-in-law. I was like, we're going back. I said, point the girl out to me. Who was following you? So she pointed her out to me. And I said, excuse me. I said, my friend right here said you followed her around the store. Did you think my friend was going to steal? Was there a problem? What is it? And I feel like sometimes we have to confront those people that look differently than us, confront the situations. Mm-hmm. If you're at that store and in that moment, I was like, this has got to be a teaching opportunity. Because I told her and she said, no, I wasn't following her. I said, but you followed her all around the store. She said, you followed her over here and over there. I said, you have to understand, if you look around, there's not a lot of African Americans here in this particular community. And if we're going to come in this community, we have to feel like we are allowed to be here. We have to feel safe here. Yeah. And you following us around the store does not make my friend feel safe. Yeah. And so I confronted her. She said, I am so sorry. It will never happen again. I'm going to do better. But we ended up leaving on good terms and went our own way. But I just feel like at times, if you feel like you're in those situations, instead of getting upset, confront it. Yeah. Confront it.
At least be willing to have an understandable, a conversation that you can seek to understand. In those type of situations, you want to be angry. You want to be upset. You want to be like, you following me and blank, and take out your phone and, do all this kind of stuff. But you, like, in those type of conversations, we have to be able to just call out things as they are.
Absolutely.
And be like, okay, like, remember, okay, in this, like, you have to remind yourself, grace, mercy. This person just don't know what they don't know.
And I'm a believer too.
I'm a believer. Like this person and love. This person just does not know what this person doesn't know. Yeah. And unfortunately, their ignorance is asking for a butt whooping. But now their ignorance is going to have to confront some love, and to go up to that person and say, "Hey, I feel like you're following me." No, I'm not. Well, I just want to let you know that in this case, blah, blah, blah. Well, we go to resorts, we go to different places, and oftentimes when I pull up, the one thing I always say is, man, I wish there were more Black people here. And I usually always say, I wish there were more young Black people here. And when we look at it, we think we think, when young Black people are around, and for me, I think it's a sense of safety. That's what I thought before. But now I've gotten to the point where I say, I don't want to pull up to a place and just think, well, if more Black people here, I would feel safe. Yeah. Like, even if I have to be the person to come in to integrate the place, if I got to be the first Black face you see and the first one that you encounter, then for me, I feel like I owe it to my own community as a human, as a being, to walk in love and to be kind, to be gentle. And
you're exposing those people.
Exposing them to now a different group of people, a different group. So now when they see, they be like, oh, there's a Black man who actually came to the resort today and he was really, really kind. He was really, really nice. And usually I heard that they were always cussing and fighting and blah, 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 but that wasn't the case at all. He was very kind to me. That in turn makes me a good representation for the community. But then it doesn't even help in the community when most Black folk in the community tear down other Black folk in the community.
Come on.
Like, you try to do work in the community.
Hold on now, right there. That's so good. You've got to go back and say what you're saying, because that's so good.
No, we tear each other down.
No, and tell me this. Sometimes I feel like this. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems like if a certain Black person is starting to become successful, other people get jealous and they want to tear them down.
Well, it's again, it goes back to the crab. I mean, I don't have time to go through the crab in the barrel mentality. If you haven't heard of that, if you put crabs in a barrel, what happens is when a crab seeks to crawl out, another crab is going to reach up and grab it and pull it back down. The crab typically isn't grabbing it just to pull it back down out of spite. The crab is grabbing it because the crab wants a leg up and feels like, well, maybe that crab is getting out is going to also help me to get out. But in the instance of trying to reach up to them, it pulls them back down. Like it's like this crab in the bucket. I don't have time to go through the whole thing, and I won't try to do that right now. But nevertheless, the mentality behind it, again, is rooted in a sense of trauma. Because it's like, I have to in order for me to get up, I have to somehow bring you down, because there's no way we can all coexist together. Because somehow I want Massa to see just me. I don't want Massa to see you, because if Massa see both of us, then Massa may not want me, but I need Massa to see me. I don't want Massa to see you. So if I got to kill you to get rid of you, then I'll do that. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., even though we talk about how great he is, we use his quotes, all that kind of stuff, he was voted the most hated man in America at the time in which he died.
Assassinated.
At the time that he was assassinated. He was voted the most hated man in America. When he was in Memphis, Tennessee, giving his final speech, I've been to the mountaintop, and when his final words, he says, I may not get there with you, but it doesn't matter to me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. And his final thing on, I think it was April 3rd, it's like his final speech. Even then, when he was speaking in front of those sanitation workers, he was a hated man. And he wasn't just hated by white folk. He was also hated by Black folk. Even though he was seeking to push a referendum, he was seeking to push a change that would ultimately be beneficial for Black folks. Some Black folks said, we don't want him. We don't like him. He don't speak for me. He's not one of us, because he didn't fall within that subsect. So it's, again, that's why I say the issue is not just racism. Like, that's so racism is a blot on a larger, is a blot and a stain on a larger quilt of sin.
That's
like,
good.
This ain't just about racism. This is about mental health. This is trauma that has been passed down from 400 years of slavery, went through Jim Crow laws that were always kept Black and white people separate, that made white people seem like they were superior, and then made Black folks seem like they were inferior. This is a culmination of economic instability. I could keep going, child, let me get off my soapbox, but this is a bigger problem.
No, that's so good. It's so funny, because people have asked me before, what do you say that you are? I say I'm Black and white. No. What do you say? What box do you check? I check other, and I write.
And why does that matter to anybody else?
Because of this, babe. They say, well, society calls you Black.
And
how
that's
do you
all
feel
right
about that? And it don't matter if they call me green, yellow, black. Well, I don't care what they call me. What I care about is what God calls me, and who's God called me to be. He's called me a royal priesthood. He's called me his daughter. He calls me loved. He calls me adopted. He calls me chosen. I refuse to give in to the cares and being subject to this world and what they have to say about me in regards to any area, including this area. But I feel like when they posed that question, they were almost saying white people are higher or better than Black people. And I don't believe that. I believe that we are equal.
We're human.
We're human.
We're human.
When we all cut, we all bleed the same exact way.
Yeah, we're human. I just got some melanin.
Come on. I mean, some fine melanin.
I glow. I glow in the sun, baby.
I was going to say, you're glowing now, baby.
I glow in the sun. That's what I do. It's just,
I need to go lay out so I can glow a little bit more.
Well, you go lay out because I'm about to go work out. But nevertheless, y'all, we probably can continue this next time.
Yes.
But make sure, excuse me, just burp. Make sure you tell your family and your friends and everybody else subscribe to this. Make sure you share it, all that kind of stuff, man. We love y'all so much. And please, if you're conversing with people about this topic, about this subject,
especially online,
I mean, let me tell you something. One of the craziest things you can do is try to have an argument with somebody online.
Yeah.
You arguing with people in the comment section don't change hearts. You don't change hearts in the comment section. You change hearts at a coffee table. So I don't even get into that. I don't like drama anyway. So when it gets in drama and all that kind of stuff, I don't do well with that stuff because I'm grown. I'm a grown man. I don't get involved with like that kind of stuff. So like for you and for your life, you gotta know how to pick and choose your battles. And here's the thing: if you already know that hatred and anger and all that stuff is building up in your heart, you got to deal with that for you. And for some people, you need to cut off you need to delete your social media. You need to go have an orgasm. You need to go do something.
Orgasm if you're married.
I mean, hey, whatever. If they're married, you're right. But if they're married, you know what I mean. But I'm just saying, some of y'all need to just go release. Y'all need to go for a run. Y'all need to go and dance in the streets. Yeah, spend time with Jesus. Y'all need to go and eat you an egg sandwich. Like y'all need to go do something. Get you some pork skins. Put your feet back and just chill. People are so high strung right now.
Yeah.
It would do well to cut that doggone news off, to cut off social media. And if you say, well, I don't know what's going on in the world right now, don't worry about it. Somebody else will tell you. If it's important, you'll need to know. But healing for yourself is what we got to take personal responsibility for. Y'all, we love y'all. God bless y'all and can't wait to be with y'all next Friday.
Yes. Bye.